Time for some more of the Lizardman campaign. Last time we auto-resolved our way to owning half of the continent that we started on, but we had to head home when I accidentally started the ritual system. We took out a couple of stacks from Chaos who spawned to stop our ritual. That was surprisingly easy, and now we're taking on a stack of Skaven. I was very happy once again to see that the map had some features on it, so we'll be able to use those to help with our strategy. Looks like there's a destroyed Lizardmen settlement out to sea there. Hopefully that won't demoralise our poor lizards too much as we set up to defend this nice position. We've got some cliffs next to a river. The cliffs will defend our skirmish troops, so they'll sit back there and throw over the edge, and the rest of our guys will just sit ready to receive the enemy as they come out of the river. It's a tiny bit uphill, so maybe that'll help. The question was, would they come around to the east side of my position to outflank me? And I put a decent amount of troops there just in case they did. The first thing they actually did was send 2 units of death runners forwards ahead of the army to just randomly attack me on their own, so not a very good move. The death runners are better than their regular rats, so they'll be just about a match for our Saurus. So I'm just going to grind against the front line. I'm not going to react, I'm not going to move to surround them because I want to see what the rest of their army does first. It depends which direction they go, and they're a bit indecisive at the moment. Here's their Hell Pit Abomination, basically just a thing that's going to come and attack us. It's even got a wheel. Rather nice looking, but it's not actually all that powerful, which is nice. It doesn't have armour like our equivalent unit, the Stegodon, which makes it much weaker because not having armour makes you weak against everything. So they did send a few units to go around towards the eastern approach, but they're going to focus mainly on where I wanted them to focus, just coming straight at our main force. The Abomination leading the way. I sent forward some spears to fight it because they'll have a bonus against it. Still looks like they're getting pretty wrecked by it though. Fortunately for us, the thing I complain about, the monstrous attacks being really weak, is now going to work in our favour because although visually they're completely annihilating us, in mere seconds we'll actually be fine and we'll be able to take down that thing no problem because of the aforementioned weakness of it. Now we are also taking fire from their Globadiers. They're throwing these debuffing things into our ranks, so that's going to make life a tiny bit harder. Nothing we can do about it right now. What I wanted to do was break through these death runners so that I could then outflank their main position, because they're kind of blobbing up and focusing on just a couple of our units there, so they're set up for a surround. If we could just get some maneuverability. The fact we're kind of fighting at a choke point is actually working to our disadvantage there to some extent. Now, on the eastern approach, the enemy's rat ogres, their equivalent of our kroq-gars, just got annihilated. That's another unit that doesn't really have much armour, so you can just kill them really quickly. They were backed up only by one other unit, these flail troops, who are a debuffing unit. So on their own, they're not especially effective, and they're going to be overwhelmed by our kroq-gars and infantry. We don't need the Stegodon. Timmy's going to go around for a rear attack. He's pretty slow, even when in moving fast mode. He just kind of walks, so it takes him a while. Once he arrives, some of the enemy's rat ogres come to attack him. It looked like he took down that first enemy, but that first enemy then just gets straight back up. The animation looked like a death animation. Then the one over to the left just dies of a heart attack. So that's good. He ended up killing one somehow, and now he'll continue on. What I really want to do is just get into that big blob of rats, and finally we're going to get things started. So I'm not as worried about him dying, as I said, because his high armor value makes him nearly immune to attacks. Having an armor of about 100 does make you almost immune to melee attacks. It's RNG based, so it's just a probability to take damage, and the higher your armor is, the lower the probability to take any damage is. So he'll be fine just hacking through literally the enemy's entire army at once. He can't be killed. Their Abomination is coming in to attack us. It routed and then came back into the fight here. But I don't mind it just attacking the edge of my unit because we're doing the big damage here. This battle's going to quickly go in our favour. We've got them surrounded. Timmy's having an amazing time just smashing the Skaven. Unfortunately, smashing them out of the encirclement, so he's almost undermining our action there. But the enemy are starting to panic as they realise they are very much screwed by this situation, and some of the lower morale units will start to leave. And of course the other ones will then surely follow because their army strength will start dropping and dropping. So now we can witness the glorious sight of the Skaven getting annihilated. The Abomination is going to go down pretty soon. You can see its health dropping quickly. It does have regenerating health, which makes it harder to kill than it would otherwise be, but we'll get them eventually. And once everything was routing, we sent in the kroq-gar to hit the path of their retreat. So they have to go through these guys to escape, and they are not going to let them go. We are just smashing them to pieces with the hammers, and from behind, the Saurus pressing ever more. We're going to be annihilating this army, and there's really nothing to commentate on here. I'm just putting this footage in, so if you're like me and you want to see some really annoying Skaven just get absolutely annihilated with absolutely no mercy, then please enjoy these kroqs going to town on those Skaven. So, as you might guess, the battle came to an end eventually once I got bored of killing them. Only a close victory, according to the thing here, which I thought was a little bit unfair because it felt like it went really well, and even the enemy's powerful units were just kind of wasted and didn't do all that much. You can see on the results, it was fine. Look at our side compared to their side. Their army was almost completely destroyed down to the last rat. Our army's fine, a couple of units damaged, but as long as we don't fight any more battles in the immediate couple of turns after this, replenishment will mean that our losses are effectively 0. And I'm so confident that that is going to be the case that I'm actually going to release their captives, so I get some money off this. It reduces your casualty replenishment for some reason, I guess because we couldn't eat them or something like that. Now, a few of the enemy's units are still alive, so we still have to take them down, but we've got a couple of turns left before the ritual fail, so all we need to do is kill these guys, and there's nothing to that. We'll get rid of them, and once they're dead, we'll be able to rebuild the settlement, and we'll just have to kind of convince everyone else doing the ritual that this settlement was here all the time and it never got raised, and things will just continue on as if none of that had ever happened. So in the end, disaster is going to be averted. We will take some damage to our army because you have to send the lizards in to colonize the place, but as I said, as long as we have a few turns without being attacked, we'll now be fine. So all of the crises have been averted, and we'll just wait for our ritual completion. Once it's done, you actually get a nice little cutscene that I won't spoil here, which could probably do with being at the beginning of the game. It just explains what the ritual system is, but only after you've done the first one, which was nice because I had no idea what it was. I was just doing it because it came up as a thing in the game. And what it actually is there's a magic MacGuffin, there's a magical key, and if you do all the rituals, you get the key, which will close the vortex forever, and that will seal chaos out of our dimension. Something good will happen, basically, and there is some other reason why we can't work together with the other races on this. That isn't explained in the game, but I think exists in the lore. So anyway, as a result of doing that, it actually completed a mission that unlocked a blessed spawn. You can see I just took it there. It's a bit like the Regiment of Renown system in the old game. I think I haven't actually played the original Warhammer since they added all that stuff. But anyway, that was that. We also got a new right, but it was super expensive. Lets you spawn units in battle, which would be useful if we had infinite money to play with, but we won't right now. So it's time for the next stage of the campaign. I'm going to declare war on the Tomb King stand-ins, the vampires out in the desert, so we can take the Golden Tower from them. I want to conquer my way west because you can see from the green lines on the map that the Skaven are out there. It's 2 ruins, but both of the ruins have the ritual thing going on, so we know that they are Skaven settlements. And as a general rule, every ruin is a Skaven settlement, at least on the southern half of the map, as far as I can tell. Yeah, you don't really get normal ruins that are just sitting there. They're all Skaven. Anyway, so we just take the Golden Tower. So a tiny bit risky to declare war on the vampires because they are a big faction. We are just going to try and ignore them and continue on with our own mission to go against the Skaven. And having the Golden Tower helps us out with the rituals because it's a special source of ritual currency. It's worth 10 times as much as normal settlements. So we move on, and we're just going to step into the ritual zone here, and what do you know, it turns out the Skaven were here all along doing their ritual. They're actually led here by Queek Headtaker, who is one of the legendary lords of the Skaven. So if you play as the Skaven, this might be one of the guys that you have, and he does suck, so that's going to help us out. All of his troops suck, so we'll just get rid of them. There we go, decisive victory, virtually no losses, and after a turn we'll be back to full strength. I'm going to occupy the place because I do want to take this province eventually. There's lots of other Lizardmen factions here, which makes it a tiny bit hard, but we'll get started. And you get an extra trait for killing a legendary lord here, so now kroq-gar has slightly increased attack against infantry, along with some regular traits being upgraded for his experience. Very good, and that's also, of course, going to now block the Skaven from doing their ritual, as long as we keep it for a while. Now, while I was sitting here waiting to see what would happen and noting the Skaven were on the way to try and take it back, there was this little army that spawned. You get this all over the campaign map, these kind of like horde factions that just spawn with a few units to be annoying. And it was an interesting spider-themed army. It's got a spider banner, it's got a load of spider riders and a giant spider. Has a feral Bastillodon or something like that in there, so they're ruining the theme with a couple of their units, but mainly it's spiders. We did have to just go out and kill them actually, because they were raiding in our territory, and that is not acceptable. So although we weren't at war with them, I started a war while standing right next to them and just annihilated them instantly. So we can see they did have a mostly spider-based army in the end, apart from the dinosaurs. Spiders and dinosaurs, not such a bad combination, but they're gone now, so no more raiding. And the Skaven army that was coming to take back their place actually got killed by the orange lizards, I think. So we're just going to continue on and take the other ritual site as well. The ritual failed along the way, although nothing happened. I was expecting to get a reward or something for causing it to fail, but no, it just means it's harder for Skaven to get that victory condition. Not that it matters, because we're so far ahead of them, they're not going to get it, so it was a bit of a waste of time. So we'll just keep going, and here we go. We take their next settlement. Queek Headtaker was there again, but he ran off. He didn't want to defend it. Probably the right choice, because he would have died, like all of the guys who are going to defend it here. I'm going to mess about with our banners here. I usually don't even remember to actually set these banners. So it's just now and again I'm like, oh yes, I should set these. Just little buffs on various units that occasionally make a difference. Not that it terribly matters, because we're so much more powerful than the enemies we're facing that getting, you know, +3 leadership on something is irrelevant, because our leadership will never be low. Anyway, we killed those guys, and it was a bit of a question whether to occupy this place, because it's a 3-region province, and the other 2 are controlled by the orange lizards, so we're never going to have more than this unless we betray them, but I'm just going to occupy it anyway and try and hold it down. Public order will be an issue. We get a nice weapon from taking this place, the Shrieking Blade. Pretty annoying in practice, but a nice thing about having a sword that's constantly screaming at you is that it causes the enemy to run away. It has the Cause Fear debuff effect, which is one of the most powerful things. It just lowers the morale of everyone near you, so it makes it easier to route stuff. So it's just handy. You can just jump into a fight and cause fear to loads of units at the same time. Now poor Queek decided he was going to come back on his honour and try to regain his settlement here. Probably the wrong choice, so we'll just kill him once again. He is not having a very good day. I guess he can't really escape, has nowhere else to go. The AI's just got desperate or something. So he failed there. We're now going to move out and finish him off out in the desert. No problem whatsoever. And this time he can't respawn, because even legendary lords can be killed if the faction is wiped out. And that was the last bit of Clan Moors, that Skaven faction, and indeed that was the last trace of Skaven in our little bit of the world. We have successfully eradicated them. The natural thing to do right now might be to go and pursue our war against the vampires, but it turned out that they wanted a peace treaty, and I was enthusiastic to take that because I thought they were more powerful than me. The balance bar there seems to suggest that. So while we probably shouldn't tolerate the vampires to be on our border, we can deal with them later once we're more powerful. We'll take the deal. So where do we go from there? Well, the answer is kind of going to be forced upon us, because we've got the yellow lizards here, and the yellow lizards have 3 regions. All of them are in provinces that we also have regions in, so it would make the game slightly easier to play if we conquered the yellow lizards, and they're right next to us, so it's a convenient place to attack. So because of that, we are just going to attack them. We have pretty good relations. There's no other reason to do it. It's just a product of the province system that we're going to have to do this. I don't really like it myself. I'm not a fan of this province system for reasons like this. I think it would be fun to live alongside a different lizard faction, but they're undermining our public order by making the wrong buildings or what have you, so we're going to take them down. I'm going to make a second army near this one on the southern tip of the continent, just so we can go and take them out with a small second force, while our main force focuses on fighting with their main force further north. Because I felt a bit guilty, you can see I came in here to end our non-aggression pact and indeed our trade deal, just so they would be forewarned in effect of what's about to happen. We're going to cut off our relations with them. I wasn't sure if you actually needed to end trade deals to avoid it counting as a betrayal of some kind, but this is going to count as a betrayal because I needed to end the non-aggression pact a long time ago for this not to count as underhanded, at least a little bit. So a couple of turns later, everything's in position. it's time to start the war. I'm even going to be super annoying and get the vampires to bring me into the war rather than outright declaring war, because I'm not sure, but I think that lessens penalties for declaring war on people you had treaties with. I'm not totally sure about that. It does reduce our reputation, although not in a way that will have any impact on anything. I don't even know what that reputation does. It claims to reduce chances of getting deals, but your chance of getting a deal in Warhammer is effectively 0 with every faction, so it doesn't matter. We'll just carry on. I'm going to start this siege here. The enemy force is equal in power to us, and they have the wall to defend themselves, so I'm not going to attack it. I'm just going to put it under siege, make a load of siege equipment, and possibly just siege them out. There's no rush to take that place, and having it under siege will stop them recruiting armies down there. We're really going to put all of our effort into taking these two settlements up here, because this is where their armies are, and these regions are more strategically important anyway. Plus we happen to be right here, so it's very convenient to focus on them. So here's the first one, just a half stack inside with some garrison to reinforce. They get a bit of presence on the balance bar, so I'm going to fight this one, make sure things go our way, but they don't have anything particularly special to stop us here. Interestingly though, this fight turned out to be a choke point battle. I didn't expect that, and I'm not sure if this makes things easier or harder really. It just means only a few of our units will fight a few of theirs at once. Now I did hire the Blessed Stegodon, which as you can see is shooting things at the enemy's flying units. It's actually a ballista, which I felt like was a bit of a waste. I was very disappointed by this unit, I must say, because as an artillery piece it's very weak, and the Stegodon is such a huge beast. I feel like it would have been more productive to put the ballista on the floor and then send the Stegodon in to just fight like our other Stegodon. But anyway, we're stuck with this artillery piece, so I'm using it to shoot at the enemy's Blessed kroq-gars, their most powerful unit, just to weaken them up a little bit. Didn't do all that much. Now their flyers, their pterodons, have javelins, and this is pretty annoying. If you thought Jav Cav was annoying in previous Total Wars, now we've got Jav Flying Cav, so you can't even attack them with ground melee units unless they choose to land and fight you in melee, so pretty annoying. I tried to throw javelins at them, but they just got out of the way, and we ultimately didn't have much way to fight with those guys. The main melee is going to get started now, and there are those Blessed kroq-gars. I was pretty worried about these guys. Managed to fight them with spears, so that'll help out a little bit, but we've seen how powerful those units are, so the elite version's probably even better. Could be in trouble. Our little skink's in trouble there. I sent the skink priest to go and distract the enemy's pterodons, because he had a pterodon himself, so we can just stop the enemy from throwing javelins by getting them in a melee, which will take a long time since the skink is a hero unit. It's got lots of health, so we can just tank the enemy's attention there. In the centre, our kroq-gar's going to get to work, starting to pound down the enemy. Their troops are obviously just the same troops as ours for the most part, but ours are better because we have all the Saurus buffs from kroq-gar, so I'm expecting to win in a grind. And I'm just trying to focus down these kroq-gars over here. I've got my Stegodon and kroq-gar going to town on them, and they actually started dying pretty quickly as a result. Kroq-gar in particular does so much damage with every attack that he can kill big units like that. Our kroq-gars got into a bit of trouble as they hacked deep into enemy lines. There's one eating a delicious enemy lizard. What a great animation, I must say. But yes, they had trouble because they were fighting the enemy's cold ones, who have a bonus against large units, and we lost half of the unit. We lost half its health, I should say. Most of the actual kroqs are still alive. So that was a little bit risky. That was probably the most dangerous thing that happened in this fight. You can see their other infantry's starting to get ground down now and rout away. A lot of them are going to come back from routing, so it's going to take a while. And because it's a choke point battle, we can't really surround them. So even as we get later into the battle and we have a numerical advantage, we can't necessarily use it. I've got so much stuff just in reserve waiting because there's no space to maneuver. So we'll just keep grinding and grinding. One little annoying thing was a unit of skinks went forward. It was chasing a unit that was routing, I think, and then got completely annihilated when the enemy skinks reformed and started throwing javelins at them. We lost 3/4 of the unit real fast. Pretty deadly, so now the rest of our army will have to go into that chase, tank some javelins, and try to take down those annoying skirmishers. And we still haven't dealt with those flyers, because we only had 2 javelin units in our army, and they ran out of ammo pretty fast. And since we don't have something like riflemen or archers to bring down flying units, they're just kind of invulnerable, sitting there above our army. But eventually we can demoralize them by killing everything else to get an army loss penalty, so they'll go away and the battle comes to an end. It's a decisive victory for our side. Very good. So the first stage of Operation Betray the Yellow Lizards has been successful.